How you doing, YouTube? Louis J. DiPaolo Jr. Here with a Raw Thoughts vlog. The date is May 8th, 2019. This is super cool. This is the third video we're putting out back to back to back. I've put out 3 videos in 2 days before. Yes, I have. So this is not a record yet, but by the end of the week that will be a new hot streak. Looking forward to it. Shout out to you, Dan. It's I saw on Facebook it's coming to the anniversaries. Still love you, Dan. We still think about you. Charlie misses you. He probably misses you more than you thought he would. Charlie really looked up to you, man. So keeping you alive. Shout out to Chris Luster, and I think that's what we're going to do here. If you comment on these videos, you're going to get a shout out. Why? Because we can. Because we can. Shout out to you, Chris Luster. I love Chris. Chris and I go way back. I remember one time we were sitting, it was actually the last time we were all hanging out together, maybe. And we were sitting at Chris's place around the table, and Jonte was saying, you know, just ragging on Chris, saying something about how Chris, you know, Chris is a big guy. He works out. He's strong. And Jonte was like, "Oh yeah, that's easy. That's physical. You know, like Chris doesn't have any smarts. He's not smart like me. You know, Jonte's bragging about himself and this and that." And I remember thinking, like, no, that's so foolish, because Chris will go to the gym every day, whether he's tired, whether he's sad, whether he's pissed off, whether he's, you know, happy, no matter what. He goes to the gym because he's already decided, this is what I want. I want to get bigger. I want to get stronger. I want to work out. And that's what he does, you know, like he learns tricks on like exercises that are better than this or better than that. He'll drag people with him to the gym if he needs. But Chris, like, when he sets his mind to it, he's just gonna do it. And that's it. I think going to the gym and getting strong is way more mental than it is physical. Like, maybe if you were to go for one day, yes, that's physical. But to continue to go every single day, that's mental, man. That is pure mental. Nothing physical about it. Like, to get to the gym after like 3 weeks, and then when you're at the gym, to force yourself to work hard. Because you can just go to the gym and go through the motions, right? We've all been there. I've been there at least. It is a different animal to go to the gym and actually try to tear your muscles every single time. So shout out to you, Chris. You know I love you. A lot of respect to you. And Chris is doing decal stuff too. So looking forward to that. If I had a car, I'd buy a decal. Maybe I still can use a decal for something. I just have to figure out what. I wore the short yesterday, but I'm wearing it backwards today so you get the full picture. I feel like now I'm starting to become conscious of my outfits because you're just putting out a lot of content. So maybe I'll just stock up on black tees. Wear a bunch of black tees. Can't go wrong. Alright, this video is a special video dedicated to my artist friends out there. And it's called Creative Control. I have a friend I met in Gainesville who's a rapper, and we were talking, and he was saying, all I want, something funny like, all I want is a $2 million contract, full creative control. and everybody's arguing about creative control, and that's like the buzzword of what we're fighting for as artists. We want creative control. Well, why? Because you might be a great artist. You might have a certain sound, a certain vision, but the second you sign with a label, right, they're concerned with churning you out. They're just trying to, it's not evil. It's not like a label saying, I'm going to suck you for all you're worth and I hope you dry up. Like, that's not what a label's going for. A label is just purely looking to make profit, which is what a business should do. If they didn't do that, then they would run out of money, they would go broke, no one could feed their family. So labels are doing what labels do. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just the way the industry works. the problem is if you're an artist and you're saying, hey, I have a vision for something, and the person in charge of you is telling you, well, okay, you need to work with this producer and then this producer and then that producer and then this songwriter and that songwriter and that songwriter. Essentially, it's like they're throwing you into a group tank, and you're forced to work with others for better or for worse. And I say for better or for worse because obviously for worse, you're sort of giving up some creative control to other people, but also for better because these aren't nobodies you're working with. They're people who have lots of experience, people who know a lot about music theory. A lot of artists don't know much about music theory. So I say artists, but in this term, kind of talking about musicians, but it'll branch out to artists in a second. So things like production, music theory, songwriting. A lot of people don't know basic songwriting techniques, right? Structure, rhythm, they don't understand basic songwriting techniques. So that is the constant battle as a musician and as an artist, right? You want to sign that big contract, but you don't want to give up control of yourself. So where is the fine line? It's tough. I think there's no better time to be independent than now, right? If you're trying to be, okay, I gotta stop myself saying right. I watched the last video. I say right like every 5 seconds. Right. I'm gonna try to cut that out of my vocabulary. Making a conscious effort. You go to the 70s. Imagine being a musician trying to make it in the 70s, not wanting to relinquish creative control. You're screwed. You're never going to get your records out. You're never going to be heard. You'll never be more than a local act. So that's rough. In 2019, we have the internet. It's pretty damn easy to be independent. You don't need somebody else. That being said, say you want to play at the Coachella Festival. You're not going to get on that stage just because you're good, just because you practice. You're not going to get on that stage. You're going to get on that stage because you know somebody, or you know somebody who knows somebody. You need to prove that you're trustworthy. You need to prove that you can be responsible relating to professionalism, and you need to prove that you can bring people to the show. Especially if it's your first time playing like a Coachella, they're not going to put you at the 9 o'clock set. You're probably going to get a 3 p.m. set. In that case, they want to see how many people you can bring to the stage. Are you a respectful person, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot that goes into it, and I think we both know that it's not just a matter of skill and just a matter of popularity or quality. Creative control, that's what we're all fighting for. Creative control. But this is what I think is funny. Everybody you hear, every artist, now this is umbrella, right? Every artist you hear is fighting for creative control, but the fight for creative control assumes one thing. The fight for creative control assumes that you've already relinquished business control. You're fighting for creative control, but you've already relinquished control of your business. To me, that is more valuable. The business is more valuable than the creative side because the creative side doesn't pay your rent. The creative side doesn't put food on your table. That's your business. I believe Chance the Rapper mentioned in like 2015 or 2016, it could still be true, but I believe he mentioned that the majority of his income is merchandise. It's not putting a song on Spotify and getting a bunch of plays. That's not going to pay your rent consistently. It's merchandise. So there are a lot of ways to make it as an independent artist, but it's business that pays your rent. Fun fact, and I was talking to my cousin about this, many people don't know this. Fun fact. Did you know that Arnold Schwarzenegger made his living in real estate before doing acting, any acting? He made his money in real estate. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that till recently. My uncle calls it. To be blunt and honest with you, my uncle calls it "fuck you money," saying you need a certain aspect of "fuck you money" to, in case your boss wants to call it quits with you, in case you want to call it quits with your boss, or in case you want to be independent. FU money, for short. And that's what Arnold Schwarzenegger did. He went into real estate. He got a bunch of FU money. And then he said, I'm going to be an actor. He went for acting. And because he had his rent covered, he wasn't worrying about paying his rent. He had money to pay his rent. He didn't need acting to pay his rent. Because of that, he was allowed the luxury of handpicking his creative projects. He didn't have to do things that he didn't want to do. He wasn't forced. Not to say that he didn't have to work his way up, but he had the leverage. The number one rule of business negotiation, and I love how everyone says that, right? The number one rule of this, I say that all the freaking time, especially when I play back these videos. I say it all the time. But to me, in my little world, the number one rule of business negotiations is you never negotiate from a position of need. When you need something, you lose all power. You have no power. If you need something, you give up power. Sometimes you can play that and spin it, and that can help you. You know, if you're like a guy or a girl that says, I really need this, I got nowhere else to go, yada yada, maybe you can get the sympathy vote. They play the violin, and it's real dramatic, and then you win the deal because of that. But in general, if you're going into something, if you're going into a business deal, and you're saying, man, I really need this, you just gave up all the power. When Arnold Schwarzenegger had his FU money, and he's, I'm sure he's auditioning for several roles, and people telling him, his agent might have said, Arnold, you have to do this role right now. He could have said, F you, I don't want to do that. What are you going to do instead? I think I'll just go to the gym. I'll go work out. FU money, right? It's a powerful concept. So I think we're so quick to fight for creative control. But to me, that's like priority number 2. We're all here trying to fight for creative control. Like my friend said, I want to sign a $2 million contract, full creative control. That already assumes that you've given up control of your business. It's more valuable. The business is going to pay the rent. Because what's going to happen, you sign a contract, they're giving you money, you can use that, base it like a salary to pay your rent. But now you're just doing a bunch of stuff you were trying not to do before. What I mean by that is most people, God, I went like 5 minutes without saying right. Play it back. I went like 5, that had to be at least 5 or 6 minutes without saying right, and it just slipped. Gotta keep it focused. That was good, right? Stop! Stop! Slow down. Okay. I noticed that we're so quick to pull that trigger to the contract, but just allow me to point this out. Most people don't like going to work because it's somebody telling you what to do. Actually, I shouldn't make that comment because that's not based in any validity. There's no substantiation behind that. Rather, let me share my experience. I didn't like going to work because I hated waking up Monday through Friday, sitting down somewhere and somebody telling me you have to do this, and the cycle doesn't end. I hated that. I would go to work 24/7 for myself if it meant that I could do the things I want to do, but I hated going to work for somebody else 50, 60 hours a week and you just have to do what you're told, and that's pretty much it. You know, that's the frustrating part. Like I said, I'll work 80 hours a week if I'm working for myself. But working 50 hours a week for you, it's frustrating. That's frustrating. But yet when we sign that contract, you're essentially an employee. You're working for somebody else. So if you hate the fact that you have to wake up and go to your job every day, guess what? You sign that contract, you're an employee. You're no different than the guy who works at Waffle House or the girl who works, the mechanic. It doesn't matter. Now you have a job to do. You've signed a contract. You have an obligation. So perhaps the better question is to consider whether you want creative control or do you just want independence. And if you want independence and you like creativity, you like painting, you like making music, you like creating things on the computer, whatever. If you just want independence, then there's only one thing you need, and that's money. If we had $20 million in our bank right now, we could do whatever we want. We didn't have to go to work in the morning. So if you want independence at the core, if you really want independence, it's not about creation, it's just about money. Find a way to get money, stack up your money as quick as you can, and there's your independence. If you're willing to relinquish that business portion, if you're willing to give that up in terms for access, right? Like we mentioned, getting on the stage at Coachella. It's pretty damn hard to do as an independent artist. A lot easier to do when you have a big label with a lot of connections. So if that is your goal, then maybe the label is the good move for you. Maybe the contract's a good move for you. In that case, then you should fight for your creative control. But the creative control argument should be secondary to the first argument, which is what do you want? Do you want independence? Do you hate waking up to go to work for somebody? Because if you do, and you quit this job to sign that contract, you're doing the same thing. You're just putting yourself in the same circle. It's the same cycle. It's just going to keep happening. If you want instead to give up that control, you're willing to be in a cycle, you just want to be in a different cycle, then go for it. So creative control. Thought that was interesting. Interesting because it's such a buzzword. It is such a buzzword. Shout out to the movie Annie Hall. I've been putting that aside for a while, and I finally saw it. It was incredible. Because I've been watching Woody Allen interviews and stand-up. I haven't seen any of his movies yet. Reading books about him. And then I saw that movie, and there's just some fantastic scenes. Like from a writer's point of view, it's incredible. And to me, I think something like the Avengers or Marvel, it's a big hit in the moment, but to me it's not going to last the test of time except for the people who are here, right? Stop it quickly. I'm probably still going to one day watch the Avengers in 40, 50 years because that is a point of nostalgia for me. But somebody born in the year 2040 is not going to care about an action movie from 2000, 2010, 2020 unless there's some value to it. A movie like Annie Hall stands the test of time because it's just interesting writing. It's not trying to do anything crazy with the camera. It's just interesting writing. So Louis J. DiPaolo Jr., comment what you think below. If you comment, I will give you a shout out. You have my word. I did it for Randy. I did it for Chris. I'll do it for you. Alright, so purpose, persistence, and practice is exactly what we need to succeed and build our skill sets in this world. I love you. Stay smooth. I'll see you tomorrow, too. Shout out to Uncle Sal. Shout out to Uncle Sal.